Welcome to From Logo to Brand, our new series where we take a simple logo and create a full visual identity. Because a great brand doesn't stop at the perfect logo. The brand we're tackling today is a fictional soft play cafe called Planet Play, where parents can bring their kids and have them all get their energy out in a safe and fun environment. Plus, the parents can also grab a coffee, relax, and catch up with their friends. One of the biggest challenges today will be to create a space that the parents love, because ultimately they're the ones paying after all, but we also need the kids to love it. And we need to find a brand that feels really fun so that they can share it with their friends and spread the word. Having more than one target audience like this is actually really common, and it can make the design portion a little bit tricky sometimes. I'll show you how to approach it, but first we need to spin the wheel to find out what we'll be designing today. Okay, so we have print design, merchandise, and website. I think it could be really fun for the website portion to actually be promoting their birthday parties. So maybe the kids can customize the event to fit their exact interests. For print, let's do something a bit fun and creative, like some really nice custom packaging for the cafe portion, because let's face it, you never have time to finish your snacks as a parent. And finally, for the merchandise part, we could do some really cute socks that you can buy for the kids to use inside of the cafe. I think that sounds like a great plan. So the very first thing we need to do is to figure out the overall feel of the brand. We want it to be really playful, but we still want it to appeal to the parents. And we have this name, Planet Play, which we could use to hint a little bit at the kind of solar system. Maybe different areas of the space could have different planet names, for example. Or maybe we can make little star signs. I always like to have a little bit of a brainstorming session like this before I dig into the research part, because it means that the ideas are a little bit more spontaneous, and also we are not as influenced by what's already out there. But of course, we still need to make sure that we're actually understanding the market and what other businesses are doing so that we can kind of carve out our own space. There's a couple ways to approach brand research, and I also have a fully dedicated video that I can link up here. But overall, the goal is to understand kind of the motivations of the customers in the end, and to see how other brands are solving for that same problem. A huge part of this is to talk to the client. They are meeting their customers every single day, so ask them to describe who they are, what they care about, and why they are so excited about buying. In this case, maybe it's something like they have a super active kid who just loves to jump and build, and they need somewhere that they could go and hang out without the house becoming a giant mess, or their kid getting injured, for example. It could also be that they would love to meet up with their friends more in a place where they don't need to actually worry about the kids kind of running away or pushing something over. If your client has a very new business, try looking at reviews and comments on other businesses' social media accounts, or you can also look at reviews. The good reviews are great for seeing what people actually value, and the not so good reviews are really good for helping us understand what we need to avoid. Things that are important to the parents could be things like the place is really clean, the coffee is really good, and maybe they have a space to warm up baby food, for example. Then we need to think about the kids themselves. So most kids who come here will be between 0 and 8. So we need a little bit of variety and style that will feel really fun and engaging for all those different ages. So having a look at similar businesses, we have a lot of color and shapes that fit smaller kids, and some more character-based ones for the little older ones. I want to find ways to use this space theme in a way that doesn't feel too overwhelming or cliche. So I'm thinking that we could use maybe stars and incorporate the stripes that we see in Saturn's rings, for example, as a kind of way to create a more subtle but still really fun and playful pattern. The best way to hit that nice balance so that we have lots of color but still appeal to parents is often to have a nice white or minimalist neutral base, and then to add in pops of color strategically. Avoid using all primary colors and look for some different intensities. So we might have, for example, a really fun pop of cobalt blue and orange, but then have a bit more muted light pink or more butter yellow tone, for example, to kind of create that contrast and visual interest. The colors don't have to always be used all together. So as designers, we are not not just assigning a color palette to the brand, we are also giving our clients a manual in the brand guide for how these colors are going to be used. So maybe one is a background color and one is just used for icons and buttons, for example. This will make your design just much more intentional, and it's also a lot easier for clients to actually use the brand. For the fonts, I think it's really easy to pick a very ornate or handwritten font because we have this idea of the play element, but we still need to remember that the brand is primarily for the parents. The logo is already a bit playful, and some of these kids are just starting to read, so we want to focus on clarity and maybe complement with some symbols and things that can help make that a little bit clearer for smaller kids. How many fonts you really need depends on what type of design applications we have for the brand. So in this case, we need a body, a title font for the website, for example, and I think a wayfinder option for signs is also a good way to bring in that extra customization to the actual location. Finally, I'm tempted to have an option that is a bit more playful for the branded merchandise and for packaging as well, just so that we have that flexibility for items that will not be as permanent. Like we may have a Christmas collection, for example. So now that we have all of our different components, let's start actually creating those different designs. We can start with a website, and I always like to create some wireframes first, just to get the kind of logic of all the sections and the content that we need down first. When you work with a client, it's usually best to get all of the images and all of the information like text and descriptions before you do anything else. This way you are not trying to adapt a design to way more copy, for example. The only exception is if your client does not have any preference at all for the copy or images, and they can just follow your lead and provide images and text based on how much space you actually allocate. Just make sure that you check with them first so that you're avoiding doing any extra work. Then we can add in all of our little details and start adding color and more personality to the design. The right photography is so underrated, and especially for something like this where we want to really show that absolute happiness of a birthday party. So take your time to source those images that really make you feel something. Another detail that can help make your website feel more engaging is to sprinkle in little surprising elements. Like maybe we can add a stray cupcake or some sprinkles, for example, to make it feel like you're actually part of a happy birthday party. When you're ready to start building your website, Webflow, who are kindly sponsoring this video, is a great choice when you want to really have full creative freedom and lots of options for animations. Webflow is like the perfect mix between a drag and drop builder and a fully custom website. You don't need to know any code to use it, but you can control every detail of your design in a way that just isn't really possible on most other platforms. That also means that it's super easy for you to hand it over to your client, either for them to edit or for you to stay on as a creative partner. With the new animations powered by GSAP, you can now also create stunning animations that just make your site stand out with just a few clicks. But one of my favorite features that is perfect for both your own site and client work is their CMS setup. It makes it super easy to create a blog or a portfolio where you have a recurring format and you just want to update the text and the images for each one. Because you keep the format the same, it's super quick to make changes that apply to all of the different posts within that collection. So if you want a deep dive into how to actually create these collections, check out this video that we created before. And if you want to try Webflow completely for free, use the link in our description. For the kids' socks, I think we could make a couple different options here with different colors. We also want to think about which socks the kids are actually picking out. So having a few that are more colorful and maybe some that are more minimalist could be a really smart move. As you design something that will become a physical product, it's always a good idea to mock up your ideas even at the sketching stage so that you get a sense of the placement and scale of things. So for example, with a sock like this, you will have some areas that stretch a lot more. So the area around the foot will stretch a lot more then this portion here. And we also have some areas that will go underneath the foot that you won't see at all. So in this case, we might want to place our design if we have a character or something that we don't want to get distorted on the side of the sock rather than like on the foot or underneath, for example. When I work with clients and create more complex illustrations for packaging, for example, I always like to send them a sketch mocked up on the end product before we actually go in and add color and detail. That way we can save a lot of time and the client can be a lot more involved in the process. So finally, let's create a little branded tag for the socks so that they feel more store ready. And now we can dive into our branded cafe print design with a cup and a takeaway bag for those extra cookies and half-eaten sandwiches for the car ride home. I think the most strategic move here is to make them feel a little bit more grown up. So let's focus on the messaging and adding a few strategic branded elements. I think it can be nice to have something really relatable and a little bit funny written on the designs, perhaps around parents rarely getting to sit down and drink their coffee hot, for example. Then just like for the socks, have a think about the 360 experience. So for example, you could design something that's a label that goes just on the front and maybe you have the same design on the back. Or if you like, create something that wraps all the way around and creates more of an immersive experience that way. Also, don't forget about little areas like you can put something on the bottom or on the top. If you open the packaging, you can have something that is revealed. That can be really great for little surprises and elements that you want to make people a little bit extra happy about. Those are also great elements for getting posted on social media because it has that little surprise element that people want to share. All these little designs will together make the brand feel more curated and thought through. So start with the things that we know will need to be included, like their company name, for example, and perhaps a website, and then we can add and remove details and see how it affects the overall design. And here is everything all together for Planet Play. This was such a fun project to work on, and I hope it helped you get some inspiration for how to adapt the same brand identity to different audiences, using some more playful elements and some a little bit more minimalist ones. Just let me know if you have any questions at all, and if you want to try out Webflow, make sure to use the link in our description. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your projects, and I'll see you next time.